Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby, and now we're going to be looking at the E-100 JagdPz. I thought I'd do something different, and I'm going to show you the footage from the live stream as the intro to this video, and then we'll go into the gameplay.
So the E-100 JagdPz, let's look at its gun, which is the most important part of the tank for the tank destroyers, in my opinion. So it has a 17 centimeter cannon on it. It's got a rate of fire of 2.4 a minute, which, although that sounds quite low, that's not ridiculously low. When you consider that, let's look at our T110E4. Its rate of fire is 3.13 on a T110E4, and that has an average damage of 850, whereas this gun has 299 millimeters of penetration, as well as 1,100 average damage, with a very good accuracy of 0.34. However, a weak aim time of 2.9. This gun, as somebody pointed out on the stream the other day, is actually, let's see, yes, it's heavier than the new Tier 5 French light tank. So that really puts this into perspective, how much of a beast this is. This thing can fire HE, however, it's only got 85 millimeters of penetration, but if you can penetrate with that shot, then you're going to roll upwards of 1,400 average damage. So looking at that HE ammo just quickly, it is very much like an artillery shell, because the explosion range on the shell is 4.59 meters. So you can use it to splash around corners or to splash over tanks if they're trying to cap. So it's always good to keep a few HE shells. However, I feel that the AP ammo is the way to go with the penetration differences that you get. 299 penetration is the equivalent nearly of firing gold ammo in other tanks. So as long as you aim relatively well, this thing is going to go through. So looking at the health, it's got 2,300 hit points. It's a very heavy tank, nearly 35 tons. Its engine power is still very good at 1,200. It's got a good top speed limit of 30. However, its traverse speed is fairly awful at 18 degrees a second. Its frontal armor is more or less like the E-100s, as you can see here. If you angle it well, you're still going to be able to bounce well off the lower plate, and the upper plate is very, 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 very bouncy. Its rear armor is 150, so the chances of penetrating this lower part with its angle are fairly low. The hatch, the superstructure on the sides, is its weak point. If you hit anywhere along here with even a medium caliber gun, then you're going to go straight through. It's got great view range, and its signal range is standard. So let's take a quick look at this behemoth and see what we can do with it.
So here we go, playing the tank with the biggest alpha gun on a game outside of an SPG. So immediately you can see this thing isn't the slowest. We're up to 20. We lost a bit of speed in the turn there. It's got poor track traverse. But again, we're up to 23. Down a bit there, taking down that tree. And we're pootling along at between 25 and 30 along a pretty flat gradient. So there's no artillery on this map. Wanted to play it quite aggressively. And there we see an AMX 50 Foch 155. Look out for my video on the AMX 50 Foch 155. I played it a lot on the test server, and we should have some good footage up on that soon. So this E50 has found two of the most dangerous tanks in the game, and he's out. Wow. The AMX put one in him, and then I finished him off. So using small undulations such as this is a very easy way to hide your lower plate, which is the weakest part of the tank frontally. Here we can see an E50 out. So there we go, two tier 9 tanks already taken out. And now our mediums roll in. I've found this tank performs very well in a support role. If it can get singled out, any tank can make fun of it by getting to the sides, where it's very easy to pen the side of the superstructure. So there we can see we bounced off the E-100 JagdPz. It's touch and go whether you penetrate him unless you're flush on, or you can see his lower plate. So even up slopes, this thing isn't very slow. It still was going along at 15. So he got a great shot off there on our engine, but we put one into his T-54 friend. So we could see that also knocked out our engine. So that is the winning formula to take these tanks out. Hit the lower plate, flush, when you're flat onto the tank, and you've got a high chance of wrecking their engine as well. So there we put one through his cheeks of his turret, which is a weak spot on the E-100, and it's also a weak spot on this tank as well. Gun depression doesn't allow us to aim at his lower plate, but as long as he's flush on, we can easily penetrate his cheeks. He fired one at us, but you saw that I angled my tank. I angled my tank to bounce the E-100, but I had to take a shot from the T-62 to be able to do that. This tank isn't quite a 45-degree tank, otherwise they can penetrate your side. It's more of a 30-degree angle tank. So we saw the E-100 fired there. It's got a 20-second reload. So we bounced the T-62, and we put a very high alpha roll into him. So I relied on my medium tank behind to take out the rest of that T-62, and he did so successfully. Now we're going to go and hunt this E-100 JagdPz. So trying to penetrate his cheeks, this one didn't go through. So we're going to angle, and we managed to bounce his shell. And I know that I'm going to reload first. So I'm preparing a shot. Hopefully at his cheeks flush on. And we can penetrate very easily. So next we find ourselves on Himmelsdorf. Brilliant map for this tank. I find that this tank excels at close ranges when it's supported by other tanks. And it also excels at long distances, even alone at long distances. So there's also 4 artillery on their team. So it's a bit brave being up here. We can see that a couple of their artillery are coming up the slope. So there we see T110 E4s. They both fired, so I'm going to make a move here. We bounced the IS-4, and we punished the weak side armor of the T110 E4 for a high roll. And we managed to bounce that T110 E4. And the GWE fired an AP shell at us, which didn't go through. The armor on this tank is fantastic if used well, just like an E-100. So we tried to shoot the bat chap there, but the T110 just squeaked his front plate in the way, which bounced. So the reload time on this is less than 20 seconds when you have it fully upgraded. And we go through the lower plate on the T110, who fires an HE shell at us to do the first damage that we took of the game. This HE shell did 329 damage. That's not going to do him any good. He needs to do a lot more damage than that to me if he wants to keep himself alive. So the IS-4 completely surrounded is just a clean kill to finish him off. Next, let's take a look at what happens when the Jagdpanzer E-100 defends a narrow pass. We can see that there's a T-30 ahead of us. And there we go. 2 Tier 10 tanks spotted. 1 Tier 9 heavy. And then a Tier 9 tank destroyer with him as well. So firstly we blitz the Jagdtiger. He's got a very high penetration gun and a high DPM. I want to get him out as quickly as possible with relatively low health for the amount of DPM that he can put out. We can see that there's no one supporting me yet. Oh great, the artillery just took out that Jagdtiger. And we put a very high roll of 1,375 into the E-50M. So he's decided he needs to flank me. I see he's going for this gap, so I try and stop him, but I miss my timing a touch and he's managed to get my side. Fortunately there's a pattern with us now, so I knew that I didn't have to reverse anymore. Shot just took my gun out. I repaired it and took the M103 down. I would have been able to reverse all the way to get the E-50M, but if the pattern hadn't been there, then I would have probably died to the T-110. So we can see at a 45-degree angle, we're easily able to bounce his shell up on lower plate, and then penetrate the side of his armour for massive damage. So I think that showcases the stopping power of this tank. As long as it gets 1 or 2 support tanks with it, it is capable of fending off a horrendous amount of tanks if they fail to make the push and flank it. So here we're zooming in to penetrate the top of the T-30, which we can easily do, but unfortunately he took our ammo rack through penetrating the front of the tank there. So we can see that that cheek area that I talked about earlier is also capable of ammo racking the E-100. So that is a very strong place to be shooting it when it's flush onto you, when you can't see its lower plate. So there we go, an easy shot on the E-100's lower plate while he was pre-aiming at the object 704 on the bridge. When we're ammo racked, our reload time goes up to nearly 40 seconds. So we're ambushed by an object 212. We fire a quick shot off at him, but he's already aimed at us, which was quite an amusing end to the game. So we won. We managed to get 1,600 experience on a regular server and nearly 85,000 credits. We hit the target 7 times, so it's likely that we did about 7,000 to 8,000 damage. One thing that's interesting is you can note in the bottom right that the repair cost of this tank is 29,000 credits. So I hope I've shown you guys what the E-100 Jagdpanzer is like. It might be because I've played the E-100 a lot, but I really like the stopping power of this tank, and I know how to defend myself using its armour. I think it'll definitely be one of the best Tier 10 tank destroyers in the game, with an amazing gun, great armour if used well, and still the ability to relocate relatively quickly. It does have its weak points, however, as I've highlighted previously, the cheeks, and also the lower plate. So thanks a lot for watching my video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you want to see more 7.5 content, either check out my other videos or think about seeing my Twitch TV account, which has recordings of all the live streams that I did on the 7.5 test server with commentary from the audience. So if this video has been useful to you, please rate it at the bottom, and if you've agreed or disagreed with anything I've said, then feel free to leave a comment, and if you feel so inclined and you've liked this content enough, then think about subscribing so that you can see my future content.